Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So this one here is my my breakdown of episode 5, and oh man, there was so much that happened in this episode. I'm honestly kind of surprised in a lot of directions this episode went in, and yeah, there's a lot to talk about with this. So before any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all of my Walking Dead content like this. And also, this will contain spoilers, which I'm sure you're all aware of. Yeah, let's just get into episode 5 here. So this episode begins with a really cool shot of a walker outside at nighttime, and it was kind of cool to see like the power go out and all of that, and like just that whole opening sequence and how all of that played a role here. And I will say, just starting this episode, from where it went in the very beginning all the way to the ending of the episode, I really did not expect all of the big moments that actually happened here. I think a lot of characters, well, actually one character specifically was kind of frustrating in this episode, but I actually think that character's probably going to die in next week's episode. But yeah, we'll get into that. This episode was actually a pretty big Dama episode, I would say. And besides her, I guess New Babylon as well. I really was not expecting where this episode went. Like all of my predictions for a lot of the characters and where their stories were going to go for like next week's episode and all of that. Everything is just kind of everywhere. And I don't know where the story is going now with New Babylon, although it does seem like they are still going to be a threat there, because we actually did see them in trailers where there's like kind of an army outside and whatnot. So they are going to be playing a role, obviously. I imagine that there is going to be a different villain, I guess, from the group, but we'll have to wait and see, when that's going to happen here at some point this season. But there were a lot of big deaths here in this episode. And so focused on Dama and what was happening there, the Dama and the Croat really had an interesting dynamic in this episode here. And I knew that it was going to be a really big, the Croat episode, because we actually saw a lot of that in the trailer. And I was talking about that, like, he seems to stand up to Negan, which ended up not being the case necessarily, but he was standing up to the Dama. And just a lot of how that story went was just really fascinating. Like in the very beginning with Dama saying, like, you can't go with Negan. Negan has to go and see Christos. You're not going to deal with any of that. You're going to be dealing with the mess that you made here. And I feel that's one aspect to this whole thing that I guess a lot of people were starting to realize and notice, right? Was that like, or at least the Croat himself in this episode realized that, you know what? Dama is nothing without me. Like, I do everything for her, right? And we'll talk about that ending scene in a second here, but a lot of that was set up very early on here. Pearlie was taken captive because New Babylon found out about Negan and the fact that he was actually still alive. So yeah, he was held captive. And then Maggie got really mad at Ginny. And then yeah, Lucia's plan was to like ambush, I guess, everybody. And so all of that didn't necessarily happen anyways, because Maggie didn't go over there and a lot of other things happened. And so let's actually talk about that. So first of all, with Ginny, I think that in this episode, it made sense that she would be against Maggie. But the one frustrating thing about it is that she really, I would say, just hurt Maggie overall. And I think that, I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like the one thing that I think everyone has to realize when it comes to the storyline, and like Ginny's storyline specifically, is that, she was introduced with Negan in season 1. She wasn't a part of, Maggie and the bricks and all of that. She wasn't a part of that storyline or that group or anything like that. And so she had like a connection with them, I guess, between season 1 and 2. But overall, I think she's wanted to get revenge for a while, and she's thought about this for a while. I think maybe they could have spent more time focusing on that. I think more episodes would help with that, right? Like we have 8 episodes, which is awesome. But I still think like having 10 or 12 episodes, like you can really flesh out a lot of other storylines a little bit better. And so I think when the character told Lucia about Negan and the fact that he's alive and a lot of that, and also obviously, when Maggie tries to go after her later on and then Ginny kind of stops all of that, like that was just, it was frustrating seeing that, because I was just like, what are you doing? And then it looked like she regretted it afterwards when it looked like Maggie was going to die. But I'm just like, that makes no sense to me, because you were okay with Herschel dying because you literally had your gun pointed at him like just earlier and you knew what was going to happen, right? So I just think for the character, it wasn't really the best moment. I think that, it makes sense for the character to do certain things, but I just think there's an aspect to it there where I'm like, obviously she never thought a lot of this through. And I like the ending scene. I really like what happened there with Maggie and Lucia and that whole battle there. I thought that was really cool, but I just think the setup for that in terms of Ginny actually, helping out Lucia in that moment there was just a little like, I just didn't understand that. I think there was a better way to, get around that. Like maybe they could have introduced something with Lucia where, you know, she was actually going to help Ginny with getting Negan or something like that. But I think in terms of, you know, her pointing a gun on Herschel and all of that, like that was just a lot. Like that was way too much. That probably should not have happened. But anyways, the Croat notices that the power was cut. And so that ends up being a whole storyline that actually leads to the reveal that Christos and his group was actually responsible for that. And so Negan, we actually see him go there and he goes to actually, I guess, convince them to join their side. And the whole thing just doesn't really actually work out at all. And it's revealed that there's actually a lot of kids there. And, you know, he's protecting a lot of people there in that building. And so Negan right away is just like, oh, okay, well, obviously, like, I understand why he's doing what he's doing now. And I will say I really like that. Like, I think that moment there, like, they haven't done a storyline like that in a while, and that really reminded me of the Vatos gang from season 1. Because that group as well, it was a very similar situation where Rick went in there with Daryl and I can't remember who else, but yeah, they went in there and yeah, they were all like ready to have this battle and all of that. And all of a sudden it's revealed that there's a lot of older people living there. And so Rick's just like, you know what, this could have been dealt with way calmer than like what was about to just happen. Like you really should have told us like what was actually happening here. So it kind of reminded me of that because Christos was a character that I don't want to say I wasn't a big fan of, but like obviously there wasn't really a lot from the character to really, I guess, like, right? Like we didn't see a lot from the character, but after this, you're just like, oh, he's trying to protect a lot of people here. Like he's protecting a lot. Honestly, out of all the groups, he's probably the one that's like a hero, right? So I was like immediately, you know, I hope that he does survive. And I was really interested in seeing where the story was going to go here. But then the Croat shows up here and then we get that whole reveal where the methane was on the whole time. And I like reveals like that. Like I was so surprised by that. I really did not expect that because I really thought that like, I mean, it was going to be very typical in terms of like, he was going to make him join, like the Croat was just going to make Christos join, but it ended up being a whole thing of like, no, he just took everyone out. So I guess Christos and everyone there are dead now. And that's kind of surprising to me, but I guess it makes sense with where they want to go here in the next couple of episodes and where they're likely going for season 3, because Negan is having a hard time with this. Like he's having the hardest time, I think, dealing with just the fact that everyone's dying all the time and that he's in the place that he's in. And, you know, he really told the Croat, like, you need to stand up to Dama. And he actually does. And I think that whole ending sequence there was incredible. And I really was not expecting it. We also got the leader of the Foragers' death in this episode. So that was another big death here. We had 2 leaders of 2 of the groups die in this episode, which was really, really surprising. I was not expecting that at all. I think this group was completely wiped out now. I think that Christos's group could actually still play a role in the future, even though that group was very small anyway, so it's not going to really matter overall. I think the big villain here is Bruegel, and a lot of what this season is setting up is Bruegel versus New Babylon, and I think we could get stuff with Dwight and all that going into season 3. But yeah, I just think that this group here and obviously Christos's group, I think we're just really there to sort of set up the fact that that's what's going on here. Like New York City, before Maggie and Negan got here, was pretty much abandoned. Like no one was there. There were some people around here and there, but overall, like, you know, it was pretty much like left alone. And so now a lot of stuff is happening here. The Croats there, Maggie and Negan are there, and now we're starting to see a lot of stuff actually play out here where I think Bruegel, who is really the smartest person here out of all of the characters, I would say, is actually starting to get a lot more power here this season. And so seeing the leader of the Foragers die, that was actually really surprising. Even Maggie's like scene there. So I will just say for that scene, it really seemed like Maggie was about to die. And obviously we knew that she wasn't going to, but I'm so curious as to how Maggie felt in that scene because she was really looking at Herschel, and I really wonder if she was realizing some stuff because Maggie hasn't been in a situation like that where she was like about to die. And so we haven't seen a lot of where that could go yet because obviously for episode 5 it was really just, I mean, obviously that just happened at the very end. I think for episode 6 though, there's going to be a lot of Maggie and Herschel. I think Maggie realized some stuff in that moment of just like, he's the most important thing in my life. You know, like Herschel, I need to actually protect him and be there for him. And I think she realized a lot of what she did wrong. It's going to be really cool to see where that goes here. But yeah, walkers get everyone here. So this group is completely gone. Lucia, actually, the leader of New Babylon, is gone. And so everyone just kind of escapes and leaves. Well, I guess I will say everyone but Maggie, Pearly, Herschel, and Ginny. They stayed behind, and then obviously Bruegel shows up at the very end, and that was like the cliffhanger for that storyline there. So we'll see where that goes for episode 6, but that was a really cool cliffhanger, I would say, for that story there. But for everything else, New Babylon is just out there now, and I'm just so curious as to where the story is going to go now. Like, this is honestly so unexpected. I really did not expect, first of all, Dama to actually die in this episode here. So let's actually talk about this scene here. So Dama seems to actually die, and based off of the trailer, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that she actually did die, and I don't know how I feel about this yet. It's surprising, because obviously when you're expecting the story to go a certain way, and then it goes a different way like this, you're just like, wait, what? And, you know, you might not like it at first, and you're just kind of trying to wonder, like, where can the story go next? And, like, where does this make sense overall? And I just really do honestly like the fact that it was surprising. I was not expecting Dama to die in this episode. I really wasn't. And especially because of the Croat, like, he was responsible, and they really built up that character here. And I'm kind of interested in where his story is going to go now. Like, is he going to be the big villain here of the season? Is that what they're building up here? I feel like that's probably what they're doing. I still think the Croat's going to die this season. I still think Maggie is probably going to end up Lucilleing him or something, or maybe it's Negan, but that's likely where they're going here for the story. And I think that all of that there, it made a lot of sense. Again, there's not a lot of, like, you know, I guess disappointment with Dama's death because of the fact that, oh, Maggie wasn't the one to kill her, because I think that was pretty, you know, I would say easily predictable. Like, we all kind of thought that would happen. And I think if it played out like that, it would just be like, oh, that was just kind of, I guess that was that, right? But the way it played out here, the Croat really stood up to her. And I thought that scene was honestly phenomenal between both of them. And it just really set up that moment really well, where the Croat could have saved her, but was just like, I'm just going to let this happen, and I'm just going to walk away. And I was so surprised by that. Like, I still am. I still can't believe that Dama is gone. Like, I don't even really fully believe it. We'll have to wait till episode 6 to see. Like, I'm still kind of questioning it. Like, maybe she's not actually gone. Like, maybe there's still some way that the story makes sense where the character could come back. But it does, like, make sense, I think. Like, there's been no big character deaths for a while, right? Like, even in season 1, there wasn't really a lot. So I think for season 2 here, you know, 5 episodes in, we get the first big death. I know Christos and the leader of the Foragers, and then there's Lucia. I know they all died as well, but they were all introduced this season. So it's kind of insane if you think about it. There were 4 leaders that died in this episode, and that changes everything going forward. Like, everything now. I don't know where the story is going, because New Babylon, are they still going there? Probably, yeah, but who's going to be the leader now? Like, what's happening with that? They're obviously still going there, but a lot happened here, so things are going to be different here, at least for episode 6, and so based off of the trailer here, like, again, there's only one more review out for episode 6, I guess, and all the early reviews never watched episode 7 or 8, and so I'm really curious as to where things are going, but that was surprising, and episode 6 looks incredible, so I'm excited to talk about that, but I am just, like, again, and also Ginny as well, so it looked like she was going to die there at the very end. So I'm actually really wondering if that's what's happening. Like, is the character going to die in episode 6? Because episode 7 and 8, I don't see it happening. But Negan, there's a lot of shots in the trailer of him crying and stuff. So because of where this ended, you know, because she's wounded and she didn't tell anybody, I think that she's probably going to die now too. So that's going to affect him quite a bit. And I think that if Lucille shows up in episode 7, it makes sense that Ginny could die in episode 6. And so I think that the next couple of episodes here are going to be absolutely insane. This was the first episode where a lot of crazy stuff that really changes the story happened. And I can't believe that Dama's gone. I think, again, this episode, I would say, if I could give it a rating compared to the other previous episodes, I would give it like an 8.5 to 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. It was a really good, like, honestly, just phenomenal episode from the very beginning all the way to the end. I really liked all of the acting, all of the scenes with everyone was just incredible. There was a few things that were frustrating, but with the ending with Dama and everything and all the setup and just how much it does change the story, it's exciting. It really is. And the only disappointment I feel like you can have is maybe, you know, the fact that Maggie, I guess, isn't the one that's going to be killing Dama. But that's the thing when it comes to a lot of this here, is that I don't know if that's going to really matter in the end. I know Herschel said a bunch of stuff and it kind of seemed like maybe he got over a few things, but I don't know if he did. Like, he was just saying some stuff, but I think if he finds out that Dama's gone, that's going to cause a lot of issues there. And I think that the Croat's going to be the villain here of this season. I think that Bruegel is building up to be the villain, but it's going to be interesting to see where the Croat goes here. And like, I do think that he's going to be like absolutely insane now. Like, he is now the leader of all of this here, right? And so, yeah, I'll have to do a video talking about Dama just overall as a character and everything that she did in Dead City. But yeah, I will say a really great character. I feel like they probably should have gotten a little bit more out of the character, but we'll have to wait and see where the story ends up here for season 2 to really know overall. Like, I don't think this is an early death at all because we have so many other villains like the Croat and Bruegel. I think if we didn't have Bruegel, I would be more like, okay, what did you just do, right? But Bruegel is going to be the main villain. He's like the real villain here. So I think that there's still a lot to look forward to here. And honestly, I'm surprised that the story changed this much in this episode. Honestly, like a really great episode. So I'm gonna leave it here. Definitely post all your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.